She'll miss me on the camera, but that's all right. I'm Elfriede Schloss. My maiden name was Elfriede Meyer. I was in France with quite a few of you here. I came originally from Frankfurt, from Waisenhaus. I have a few people here that cohorts that came with me. So was Henry Schuster. I came here on the Mazzino in June of '41. Went to Chicago. Spent the better part of my life in Chicago, met my husband, who's right over here. We were married in 1947. We have 3 children and have 3 grandchildren and expecting another one, our first girl, next month. I don't know what else you want to hear, but I'm all very, very happy to be here, and I'm glad to see so many of you. And I now live in San Diego. What homes? They tell me, and my memory isn't the greatest. I was in Montmorency and in Aubonne and then in Montantin. Now, somebody told me that I was also in Maupassant, and I don't remember that. But I was. Thank you. I hope you enjoy your evening here.
I'm Susie Leiter. Maiden name was Casper, and I was with all these good people in, I come from Berlin, by the way, and I came over on the first children's transport and settled in New York, stayed in New York. And I don't think you're interested in the rest of my history, but I'm a grandmother as well.
I am Fred Strauss, formerly Fritz Strauss. I came from Waisenhaus in Frankfurt in 1939. Went to Maupassant, Col-Maïmonide, Aubonne, Montantin, and Montmorency. I now live in New Jersey. I'm married for 40 years to my wife, thank God. I have 2 children and 4 grandchildren. That's it.
Ernst Walfer, formerly Ernst Walfer, born Ernst Walfer, now die Ernst Walfer. From Frankfurt, same story as you've heard. I have 2 children, and when I go with them anywhere, everybody thinks I'm their grandfather, their great-grandfather.
Thank you. Can we get the OSE people from table number 3, or are you still in your salads? Just the OSE people from table 3. You can start.
I think I'm much too young to be among this group. I came from Germany. In this one? This the one? I came from Germany, went to Montmorency, Helvetia, Chateau de Chaumont. Came here on the Serpapinto in September of '41. And I've lived in the Bay Area all the time since then.
I'm Eva Rosenzweig, formerly Canna. I'm here with my parents, Sal and Mia Canna, and my 2 sisters, whom you will hear a little bit later, and my niece. I was in Montmorency, in Montantin. I came on the 2nd transport. I've lived in New York all of the time since I've been here. I'm thrilled to be with all of you, and I hope we'll talk some more, and it's just wonderful. Thank you very much.
My name's Ed Goldsmith. I'm from Vienna originally. I came to Montmorency, to Villa Helvetia, I guess that's Montmorency. From there we went to Chateau de Chaumont, which by the way is not up there, I don't know why. And from there we came to New York in 1941. And I lived in Los Angeles until 1950. Went to Israel for 25 years. Married, had a big family. They all came back here in '75. I have 3 kids and 4 grandchildren.
I'm Flora Spiegel, formerly Flora Hirsch. I only was in Brouvernet at Chateau de Morel and came over on the second transport of the Musigno. I've seen many of you here tonight. Whose faces look familiar. Perhaps I know you, perhaps I don't, but it's a good feeling to be here. I came to the United States, as I said before, on the Musigno on September 2, 1941, and I have a copy of the ship's manifest if anyone would be interested to see it. Arthur Lowe's name is on there, so is Art Kern, and my brother and my sister's name as well as mine. I think ours was the largest family to be in the OSE homes. There were 5 of us. And I thank God for the foresight that my mother had to get us registered, to leave Germany and be able to thence go to France and from there to the United States. It's wonderful to be with you tonight. Have a wonderful time.
My name is Otto Herskovic. I live here in Los Angeles now. I was at Brouvernet. I got there in 1941. I'm amazed at this. I was just shown a picture, and Aaron Lowe is right in it, and so am I. And you know, it's Brouvernet.
I know him.
No, I don't remember. Yeah. And I came to, as I said, Brouvernet in 1941 from Belgium. We lived in southern France, in unoccupied France, near Toulouse. We then, for my father, I was with a sister. My father took us to Brouvernet. For one reason, he had heard that we could possibly go either to Switzerland or to America, and that excited him about getting us to that home. We got there, and within about a year and a half, we left for Marseille, and then took a French boat to Oran, a train to Casablanca, and I was hoping to be in a film with Ingrid Bergman there, but I didn't make it. And then on to Bermuda and Baltimore instead of New York City in 1942. So I feel we were lucky because it was one of the last boats to go to America. Then I lived in New York, Nyassa, N-Y-A-S-S-A. And we had heard of the Serpa Pinto too, but we made it on Nyassa. That was it.
My name is Friedel Foyer-Resnick. I was in Montmorency, Aubonne, and then Brouvernet. We left in September 1941 on the Serpa Pinto. I arrived in Washington with my sister, and we were one of the fortunate ones who came with parents in Washington, D.C. and lived with them for many years. I have 2 wonderful children, and I'm the proud grandmother of 3 grandchildren.
Okay, I guess we can take table 2. All the people with the OSE homes. I'm just amazed at how many pictures there is. Everybody has a picture of me, even if I wasn't there. It would have been easier if I read 1, 2, 3, 4, and correctly to 1. It's not as easy.
My name is Lottie Wertheim, formerly Charlotte Baha, and I was in the Weissenhaus and went to Aubonne, Montantin, and several other homes that I'm told I was at. I then stayed in a number of other homes as I was not able to come to this country, which I was supposed to. My parents were here and trying desperately to get me to come over here, but were not successful, and then I was able to get into Switzerland, where I lived for 2 years before finally coming here in 1946. I have 2 children, one of whom lives in Israel at a kibbutz. He has 2 children, and my daughter lives in Colorado and has 1 child. And I greet everyone and wish you a wonderful time here as I am having.
The island again.
I was in Montmorency, Aubonne, Montantin, La Chevrette. My husband came later and helped us a little bit cooking. But I have 3 daughters, 5 grandchildren. I'm very happy to be here.
My name is Art Kern. It used to be Oswald Kernberg, and I had to find every kid in the school with that name, so I changed it. Originally, I'm from Vienna. I came to France in March of 1939. I was in Chateau Maubuisson, went to Montmorency, from there to Aubonne, from Aubonne to Chateau Montantin. Then I came on the second transport in September of 1941 to the United States. I'm married, have 3 children. I have 2 grandchildren, and my 2 married children. Both my daughter-in-laws are also pregnant at this time, and one of them is really showing now.
Hello, everybody. My name is Joe Brunner. I'm originally from Vienna, Austria. I came to France in 1940, coming through Belgium. That's how I got to France when the war started. Eventually ended up in Chateau Montantin in approximately, it must have been about 1942, 43, I don't remember exactly. From there, the OSE made arrangements to get us to Switzerland. And I got to Switzerland safely. We stayed in Switzerland till the end of the war, at which time I returned to France to rejoin my mother. We stayed in France till 1949, and we finally made it to the United States. I now live in Pittsburgh. I got married in 1957. I have a son, and then my son just recently gave us a little granddaughter. Thank you very much.
I just would like to make not an announcement, but I have a question. I have a picture here, which I thought was one of Elfriede Schloss, formerly Meyer. And it was sent to me when I came here in 1946. And all it says in the back, it's dated April 46, and it says in the back, do you still remember me after 8 years, or have I changed a lot? And I would like to know if anybody here sent me this picture.
If anybody has sent any pictures out in the last 40 years, please see each one.
No, it was in 1946.
In 1946. And we have time for one more table, table 1, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll continue later.
I'm Leah Blyman. I am the 3rd of the 3 Canna daughters who are here tonight with my parents, and we are all very, very happy to be here. I was in most of the homes that my mother mentioned. I was in Montmorency, Le Couret, and Montantin. However, I didn't stay in the homes. I spent some time in a convent. I think some of you know that many Jewish, not many, not enough, frankly, some Jewish children were in convents. I was one of those. And toward the end of the war, I was reunited with my parents, and we lived in Limoges for a while, and eventually we came to this country in 1946. And, well, I don't have any grandchildren yet.
Good evening. My name was Amélie Carniol, and I haven't met too many people, but whoever was in Chateau Le Couret or in Majambeau, I would like to meet tomorrow when we have our second meeting. My name was Amélie, and now I'm Mali Diamant, and I'm married, and I have 2 daughters. I came to an OSE home I was born in Frankfurt. We left after the Kristallnacht. 6 months later, only in June of '39, we left Frankfurt. We smuggled ourselves to Belgium. In May of 1940, we fled to France. From there, we were on a camion to Gurs, because all the Jews that came after 1939 were to be interned either in Gurs or in Rivesaltes. And thanks to one of my we were 9 children, one of my older brothers, he falsified laissez-passer for us. We wanted to go back to Belgium via the line de démarcation, la ligne de démarcation, as Protestants. And when we wanted to cross the ligne de démarcation, we were caught naturally because my mother looked very, very Jewish and didn't know a word of French. So we were sent back to Périgueux, from Périgueux to Limoges. In Limoges we were in hiding because all the Jews that came after 1939 in France were put in résidence forcée, which was in a forced place. You had to stay in a little town or in a village, and if you wanted to travel by bus to Limoges, you had to have a laissez-passer. So instead of putting the Jews in a ghetto, in the free zone, they put us on résidence forcée. And therefore, because we were hiding in a cave, I became very ill, my little sister became very ill, we had TB, and we ended up in a hospital in Limoges. And from Limoges, I must say, some social worker that worked with the OSE took us out and placed me in Majambo. And if it hadn't been for Majambo, I don't think I would be here today. Because after Majambo, I went to Couret, Château du Couret, and when these homes, all the OSE homes were dissolved in 1943, some only in 1944, like Margelier in Montentin were one of the latest homes that still existed. And I want to ask you, does any one of you know, did any one of you know Joachim Buchholzer from Montentin or Margelier? No one. Joachim Buchholzer? I want to meet you later because I want to talk to you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to go. Okay, and then we were smuggled to Switzerland in April of 1943, and from there, of course, it's not important anymore. I must just say that a lot of the OSE people gave their life for us children, and I'm very happy to meet you all.
My name is Alice Oster. It used to be Laura Goldschmidt. I came to Montmorency in 1939. We were on the St. Louis, and we were fortunate enough to get out of France in December of 39. So my story is short and a happy one. We left with my parents from France. We moved to New York. We still live in New York. I got married in 1950, and we have 2 children, and we're expecting our first grandchild in September, and we can hardly wait.
I'm Frida Graham, formerly Frida Rosenblum. I came to this country on the Kindertransport on the Mousino. I was in the OSE homes of Aubonne, Montentin, and Majambo, and I'm very happy to be here tonight. Thank you.
Hi. My name is Vera Schweber, born Goldfisher. Although I'm an ex-OSE child, I'm not exactly your crowd because we wound up in the OSE homes in 42 when all of you were in the States already. We started in Ussac, we went down to the Swiss border, we went to several homes. The last year we fled to Switzerland because my parents went to Auschwitz. And by happy coincidence, through friends, I found out about the reunion. And since we are all the same family, no matter 41, 42, 43, or 44, I'm delighted to be here, and I found a few old friends. Thank you.
My name is Minnie Chazen. I was formerly Minnie Oppenheimer. My name is Minnie Chazen, formerly Oppenheimer, Minnie Oppenheimer. I came from Frankfurt am Main in 1939 with my sister and my brother, who are also with me, not here tonight, unfortunately. I came to Château Montentin in 1941 and stayed there till 1942, and came over on the Serpa Pinto, the last transport. And I feel especially thrilled tonight to be here because I was reunited with my very best friend from the ship who I thought I had lost, and I found her here tonight. Her name is Judy Knieberg. It was Juliette Schönbrunn, and I am absolutely ecstatic about that.
I'm Norbert Rosenblum, and although I was born in Strasbourg, France, I was known to have come from Saarbrücken, those who know me. And the OSE homes I was in were first the École Maimonide in Paris, and the École Maimonide, and then from there several places I don't remember. Then I wound up in Aubonne, and then in Montantin, and came here through Marjambeau, where it was a few weeks, I believe. Came here on the 3rd transport in September 1941 on the Sapapinto. I'm married. I have 3 sons and 1 grandchild. And I'm very happy to be here tonight.
Thank you. And now they're going to serve the...
I was probably one of the youngest that came out of White House.
You're old now.
Thank you. Now I have some pictures with a lot of different children and groups of children in at White House. If there's anybody here that I haven't talked to this evening, let's get together before the evening is up or tomorrow to share some of these pictures to see if anybody's in it. I'd like to say that we came from White House. I was in Montantin, or born in Montantin, and just for the second generation that's here. I think there's other questions that you probably have that have not been answered. Number one reason why most of us came to Lisbon, in Portugal, was the fact that Portugal was the only neutral country at that time. And I don't know if you were aware of that. Now, at night, we would go out on the deck and we would see the German submarine around outside the boat. And we would just sit and just hoping that Portugal would not enter the war. Also, the fact that Aaron and Art, I don't know how they rated. I remember sleeping in 3rd class and even in 2nd class on the boat. Now, I live in Chula Vista. I'm San Diego. I lived with my wife for almost 35 years. And we have 4 children, including a set of grandchildren that are twins. Our daughter just got married last week to Catamine Frankel of Los Angeles. Thank you. And that's about all I have to say. Thank you. It's been a tremendous evening.
Hello, I'm Rosalie Johnson. I was Rosa Blau. I was born in Cologne, Germany, and I was the youngest of 3 children. The only ones that survived in our family was my sister and I. My mother sent us into Belgium, and we were put into a children's home. We were hidden there in a Catholic orphanage. From there, we were in Zoom, and from there, we were taken during the night by train. We traveled by cattle car. And we lived under very, very poor conditions. We didn't have any food whatsoever. I was not in the homes that these people were in. We were hidden out. We were big-ass children who were hidden in the countryside. And I found out that a lot of the children ended up with yellow jaundice. We were very, very ill. And they took the children who they didn't think would survive, and they sent them to come to the United States. When I came here, I was 9 years old. I weighed 45 pounds. I had ribs. I was in very, very bad condition. I came on the 1st transport up in Lucino, and I was taken in by an American family, and I've been married for 35 years, going on 36 years. I have 3 children. I shouldn't say children. I have 3 adult children. And That's my story.
Good evening, I'm Eric Green. Thank you, Franklin. My name in Germany was Erich Grünebaum, or in France, of those of you that remember me. I came with the transport that left Germany March 8, 1939 from Frankfurt. And I went to the École Maïmonide, to Maubisson, Château La Chenaise in Aubonne, and on to Montantin, where we lived at the Chevrette with the allegedly Orthodox kids. And I had the good fortune to be on the first transport to come to the United States on the SS Messino, landing in New York on June 21st, 1941. The one thing I've always wondered about in my life was why was I so fortunate, and that of course includes all of you, to have made the exodus from wartime Germany and France or Europe when there were others, including my sister, who just by a chance of fate didn't make it. My sister went to Holland on a similar transport, and unfortunately she was one of those that wasn't left, that was left behind and was not able to come out. I thank the Lord that I was able to be here tonight. I am very fortunate to be married to a wonderful woman, Eileen. I have two wonderful sons, one in Hawaii, one here tonight, and I have a host of wonderful, great friends. And I still thank the Lord, and I often wonder by what chance, who decides who shall survive and who didn't. And I'm grateful that I am one of those. And I thank everybody for being here.
Thank you, cousin Ernie. What's his name? Eric. I'm Ernie. I'm Ernie Marx. I usually speak in front of many, many people. But tonight, I'm not the same Ernie Marx that I usually am. I'm very, very serious tonight. I came out of Germany on a transport on December 6, 1938. And you all, some of you knew my mother. My mother's still alive, thanks God. And my father and my uncle at the Waisenhaus in Frankfurt. Some of you knew my mother because she was one of the ladies that brought the children out of Germany into France. I was on one of those transports, came to France, went to École Maïmonide. First I went to Yeshiva in Strasbourg, then to École Maïmonide, and then to Aubonne, and then to Montantin. I did not get out of France until 1947. My father, who was in a camp not far from Montantin, and I had a chance to visit with him, and Eric did too, I think.
What camp?
Saint-Germain, Saint-Germain-les-Belles. And then he was in Camp-les-Milles, Aix-en-Provence. From there, unfortunately, he went to Auschwitz, and we have never heard from him since. My mother is still alive in a nursing home in Indianapolis. After Montantin, I was reunited with my mother, who was in Gers. And from there, we were chased from one place to another. I never forget hiding behind the coal bin with the Germans coming after us in Grenoble. And I saw that bayonet, the edge of it, in front of me, like an inch away. We got away from them, fortunately, and I was separated from my mother in 1942, I believe 43, and I joined the Maquis, the French underground, in the Alps. From there, I stayed up there, went to Marrakesh. I was an interpreter for the French Foreign Legion of all things, because I spoke German and the Rommel army needed some of them wanted to be in the French Foreign Legion at that time. And I looked good in that French uniform. And after 1945, I knew my father from somehow, I knew my father went to Glancy and from there to Auschwitz, but I didn't know where my mother was. There's a little story that amazed everyone. I went back to Grenoble, the little town of Chiers, which was on the slopes of the Alps, and I was on that little streetcar where the motorman recognized me 2 years before. He saved my life by telling me that I was his apprentice when the Germans surrounded the streetcar. Now, I was looking for my mother. She was on that streetcar looking for me. I'll never forget this day, the same as I'll never forget this day today. I came in 1947. I was reunited with my brother and my mother. The three of us became the United States in 1947. After the war, I was, and I can say proudly today, that I was a French citizen. I was a deserter of the French army because I renounced my French citizenship and became a German citizen again in order to come to the United States in 1947. I think you know what I'm talking about. When I became in 1947, my brother passed away since, and I am now associated with the congregation out of Yeshurun in Louisville, Kentucky. I am married to my lovely wife. What else can I say? Thelma. We have been married happily for the last 7 years. We have 4 children ranging from the age of 22 to 27. Figure that one out. I thank you.
I'm Renee Eisenberg, and I was Renee Spindel, and I left Vienna in March of 1939 and went to, I suppose, a Rothschild's home in Paris, and then to Montmorency-Soissy, et après à Tourelle, and after that we went to Marjolier. In 42, my sister and I were sent to a convent for 6 months while they were looking for French families to keep us. And there we were in the department of Drôme, in the little town of Romans, Grange-le-Beaumont, and we stayed there for 2 years till the end of the war, when we went to England to join our mother. Our father perished in Auschwitz, I don't know when. And then we came to the States in 1946, and we were sent to high school. And then we came to California. I came in California in 1952. My sister came before. I married Morris, and we have 3 children, and one married, one oldest daughter is married, and then we have a young son in the middle, and then a daughter. Third one is a daughter. That's it.
My name is Herbert Karliner. I was born in Germany, and I was on the St. Louis. I came to France in 1939, and I was at Montmorency, La Tourelle. From there I went to Château-Chaumont on the Creuse. I was in, that's right. Then I was in Marjolier. From Marjolier, I was sent down South France to go to Spain, but we couldn't make it. We went back to Switzerland, couldn't make it either. I was underground for 2 years, and after the war, I went back to Château Marjolier, also to Rue Rollin, which I don't think anybody knows. That was after the war. You do? I told you. I was also in Pelousa, in Écueil, and I'm still with the OSE. I'm married to a French girl who is also from the OSE. I was connected with the OSE, Madame Mazou. I don't know if anybody knows. Well, she introduced us, and I have two lovely daughters. Thank you very much.
I'm Bert Kuhn. I came out of Germany into France, left on the first transport for the U.S. Is there anybody else from Illinois here, or am I the only one? Oh, there are some others. Good. I'm still living in Illinois. I've got a wife and two children, one of them in San Francisco, one of them at Indiana University.
My name is Fred Salomon. My former name was Fred Salmon. I come from Germany. I went to La Tourelle, first Villa Helvetia, La Tourelle, Montentin. From Montentin, I went to Switzerland, to Geneva. From Switzerland, I went back to Germany. From Germany, I went to Israel. From Israel, I came here in '61. I'm married, I have 3 kids.
I'm Hans Kohn. I followed my little brother everywhere. And that saved a lot of grief. Except that I moved out to California 35 years ago, married, 2 children, and I enjoyed my stay in so many children's homes so much that I've been directing a children's home for most of my professional career and put some of that knowledge to good use during that time. We're in Pasadena, in this area. Pasadena, out here.
Are there children's homes in the United States?
There are.
There are?
We don't call them that, but that's what they
How
are.
do you call his home?
Gosh, you got a lot of people here. It scares you to be up here. My name is Henry Schellon. I used to be known as Emmett. I came over on the St. Louis, and we got stuck in France. I was there from '39 to 1942 when we got out over Africa. I'm not going to tell you all the things that happened because it's really immaterial. The most important thing is I came here in '42. I was drafted in '44, went overseas, came back in '46, walked down 47th Street in New York, and a girl came from the other side, looked at me, "Aren't you Hannah?" I said, "Yes." And her name was Ilse Hess, who was on the St. Louis, and who was with me in the children's home. We got married. We have 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. I got 4 grandchildren. My wife passed away in 1975. I have a girlfriend now, and we're getting very close. Thank you so much.
A couple of more announcements. This gentleman is looking for somebody. I'll let him explain it.
Does anybody knows a boy by the name of Hans Hirschberg? He was in Laguette, in a Rothschild home, and also in Magelier. He came to the States after the war, and I lost completely contact with him. If anybody knows, please let us know. Thank you.
Also, if anybody brought their biography with them, Renee Schuster is at table 14. If you brought one. Oh, if you could bring them tomorrow, if you have them with you. She just left, apparently. Also, let's see. There are maps to the Jamner home tomorrow in all these packages. If some of you did not get a package and need a map, there are some more on the back table, just a few of them. Okay, well now let's go on to the next table, table 7. Lots of familiar faces. Just the OSE people. You can leave your spouses behind. And
I'm married. My charming wife, Alina, and I just celebrated our 35th wedding anniversary this week. We have 2 sons and a daughter, and I have 1 grandson, Joshua. Thank you very much.
I'm Ernie Kopstein, or Ernst Kopstein, whichever you prefer. And I'm from Vienna, Austria, came to France in '39, and was at Helvetia, Montmorency, Tourelle, and Montantin. And I brought a few souvenirs with me, including a little book with personal inscriptions. And I'm trying to locate some of the people who wrote in that book. Their names are Hans Freund, Erwin Stern, Krubbel, Robert Bergman, Werner, and Gunther Schwartz. And if any one of these people is here, I have their handwriting from 1941 with me. I have also located some others from this book. I visited Ernst Koppel in Israel. Ernst Koppel is that Emil Geisler that you'll be reading about in your handouts. And Ernst Koppel is a cook at Kibbutz Sadat Yam, which is near Caesarea. And he's not married. He lives with a German Shepherd dog in a little hut. And I can prove that I was a good student in France in the French public schools. I brought with me my billet d'honneur and my témoignage de satisfaction, which proved that I must have been very smart at one time. I wish it had lasted. Thank you.
I'm Klaus Bodek. I was born in Berlin, Germany. I have been in Helvetia, Tourelle, and Montantin, together with my brother and my mother. We went out of France via Casablanca on the Nyassa to Mexico. This was in February 42. And we are living now in Mexico. And I want to tell you that last week I had lunch with Margot Kohn, if you remember her. She is sending her regards to all of you. Thank you.
My name is Ruth Rosen. I'm the 3rd Canna daughter, last but not least. I came here on the Mousineau, and we arrived here in 1941 in the beginning of September. I came with my sister Eva. I was in Chateau, and I was in Montmorency. I spent some time in Chabannes, and then we went to Montantin. And I was lucky enough to be reunited with my family in 1946. I have a little autograph book where I have little memorabilia that people wrote in. If anybody would like to see it, I also have some school books. I'm at table 7. They're a little delicate. I could not put them up on a bulletin board, but you're all welcome to come and see if your name is inside the book. I've already found several people. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Fred Jamner, previously known as Ziggy. My wife, Margareta, who's sitting there, and I are inviting everybody over for lunch tomorrow to our house. And if you think coming here is a miracle, getting everybody into our place tomorrow will be a bigger miracle, I promise you. I came from Saarbrücken and went on to Montantin, Montmorency, and I had a real nice speech, but I gave it to Aaron to look over, and he took all my jokes, so nothing left. I have 2 children, Lisa and Andrew, who are in the back, and since we have no grandchildren, I would appreciate if anybody would talk to them to help me out over here. Thank you, Andrew. One final thing. I've been in physical training for the last 50 years, waiting to get even with the big guys who always picked on us little guys. So tomorrow after lunch, we're having a new Little Olympics in LA, and we will all get even with them. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Gita Ryle. I was born with Gita Spindel, or Spindle. I'm the younger sister of Renee, and she kind of said the story already. We were born in Vienna. We left in '39 and were shipped to France. We were in Montmorency and in Marjolier. We tried to get out on the boats, but we didn't make it, so they shipped us back into France. We were put into a Catholic convent, and when that wasn't safe, they put us into French farms till after the war. We were lucky that our mother had escaped to England, and we were reunited with her after the war. Our father was shipped to Auschwitz and did not make it. Let's see, I married to Bob for nearly 32 years. We have a daughter, Janine, and a son, Marcus, and a son, Jeffrey. The boys are married, but the girls not yet. We now live in Santa Cruz, and I'm very glad I'm here, and I'm very proud that all of our children are here. And I guess there's a purpose for us to be here, and I hope we all think about it. Thank you.
My name is Ben Platt, and...
My name is Henry Platt. Jack. Platt.
That's Platt. We decided to cut the time short, so we're going to make it, instead of 3 long ones, going to be 3 short ones.
Okay, your time is up. Go ahead, Jack.
Okay, we went to Montmorency after my mom passed away, and our father was in the French Army. Our aunt took care of us to get us to the OSE, and we went to Montmorency, from Montmorency to Marjolier. Marjolier, we stayed approximately a year, then we left there in, what was it, second transport, which had to be in...
September. Third transport.
Third? Third transport?
Third.
Which
That's all I
had to
could say is third.
Anyways, we got here on between the 20th and 24th of September on the Selpa Pinto.
No, correction, September 23rd, 1941, we landed in New York, Jack. Oh, go ahead, Ben.
After we got into New York, they all looked at us and said, "Oh my God, what are they?" Because we were with name tags, and we didn't know where we were going. We went to a place called in Pleasantville, in which we stayed there for some time. And I'm sure there are some who went there with us, who were there with us. But from there we went to Los Angeles, and we spent our time in a place called Vista del Mar, which Joseph Bonaparte ran it, and which some of you may be familiar with. Oh, yeah? There we go.
Let me just say something. Of course, we skipped all about the fighting in France. We were underground.
Get out of here. Anyways, to give a brief story of my life, I stayed in the Army approximately 24 years, 7 months, and 38 days. I married my wife in France. We met in Paris at a party neither of us wanted to go to. And we got married. I have 2 children. I have 1 grandchild and 1 on the way.
Very good.
And I don't work.
And her name is Jacqueline. I'm also married. Been married about 35 years. I have 3 children and 3 grandchildren. And it's your turn, Ben.
He has nothing.
I am newly married. I've only been 29 years. I have 3 daughters. 2 of them are here. One's taking pictures. And we have no grandchildren. We're not married either, right? But we're all looking forward to it. Anyway, it's a miracle that we're all here, because, as someone said earlier, whoever chose for us to be here Whoever did that is something that we had no control over. And there were many people that were in Chateau Marjolier and in Paris with us that obviously never were here. But for that, we are all thankful. And we really are grateful to be here, and we have been very successful here. Very happy here.
Hi, my name is Ernie Hirsch. My maiden name was Ernst Kirchheimer. I'm from Mannheim, and I got to Marjolier by way of Gerson-Riefsal. And in 1943 was lucky enough to be able to escape to Switzerland, came to the United States in 1947, and came to the West Coast in 1959. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area now with my lovely wife who is with me here. We've only been married for a year and a half, but I'm probably younger than some of you, so that adds up. I also have 3 adult girls, women, as daughters. They are legitimate, and that's about all that I want to say about myself, but I do wish to thank the people who got this thing rolling and did such a wonderful, wonderful job. I'm just so grateful to you. It's just really a wonderful thing. Thank you.
My name is Fred Siggy. For 47 years, I have wondered what happened to the other kids who came over with us. And I want to thank Henry Schuster and Art Kern, all the other people who have illuminated a dark chamber in my life. Tonight I speak for my brother and me. He couldn't be here. The 2 of us were, what's a good word for it, released, let go from the concentration camp Agde, which very few people know about. Agde, anybody else? I have wanted to find out who else, and I'd like to speak to them after. And we left our parents and a 3-year-old sister there. We came on the Serpa Pinto. We were sent to St. Louis, the 2 of us. Since the 2 of us left Agde and the 2 of us wound up in St. Louis, we never knew what happened to anyone else. And it's been something of a mystery which tonight is finally being answered. I have brought a picture of the people who came on the Serpa Pinto. I've blanked out the faces on one aspect and put numbers. It's on the back. For those who came over on the Serpa Pinto and recognize yourselves, please fill in your name, which corresponds to your number, so that we know who you are. And it might not be a bad idea, if we have enough, to take a picture of us and see what we look like today as opposed to what we looked like 47 years ago. We went from St. Louis. My parents came to this country. We were reunited in 1951, at which time my sister was 13 years old, and I had 2 brand new twin sisters, which were 6 years old. I had never seen them before. And we started a life anew until I met my wonderful, excuse me, wife. We got married, and I now have a son, a daughter-in-law, and my son Brian, my daughter-in-law Sherry, and my daughter Hillary, who came with us from New Jersey. They're here tonight, and I just wanted to say that all these people talking about grandchildren, I'm grateful that my children have not given us grandchildren, because my daughter, for one, is not married. I think that this is a wonderful evening and a great testimonial to the fact that the final solution did not quite work. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Henry Seneson. Used to be Heinz Lothar, Zina Zone. Oops, can you hear me now? What am I doing wrong? Okay? No? Okay, all right. I'm Henry Sineson. I was in Montmorency, Aubonne, and Bruvernay. For me, tonight is a personal nostalgic coming to this place. Because once we came, when we were distributed throughout the country, I came to Los Angeles, went to visit Del Mar like the Flat Boys. And the people who became my foster parents were the ones who founded this temple. They're now no longer with us. And I used to come to this place before it was a temple. I used to come for my Saturday afternoon frolics with my girlfriend when it was a movie theater and go up in the balcony here.
My name is Werner Siegel. I came from Berlin to France in 1939 to Montmorency and from Montmorency to Laguette. I think from there my ways parted from most of the ways that you have experienced. We fled to the southern part of France. I spent some time in La Bourboule, some time in Brive-la-Gaillarde where we were hidden in a French boarding school. We from there went into hiding in Ussac. From Ussac, I managed to slip into Switzerland together with my sister Steffi, who lived at Château Le Couret at La Jonchère. By the way, I would like to just mention the fact that OSE arranged for her to come to the Swiss border at the same time that I came from Brive-la-Gaillarde, and we crossed the Swiss border at the same time. A magnificent feat of organization during the German occupation. I spent 3 years in Switzerland, went then to Italy to work in the underground, which transported people out of the camps into what was then Palestine. After a year and a half, I embarked myself, was caught by the British, and spent a year and a half in Cyprus. In 1948, I arrived in Israel, served in the armed forces and the Air Force. I spent time in the Negev, building roads. I spent 4 years at the Weizmann Institute. I went back to Europe for a year and came to the United States in 1960, together with my wife, who's here today. We do have a son. He lives in Washington, D.C., and I would respectfully submit that the organization OSE, which is still active to this day, deserves our support. I would like you to think about that. Thank you.
Cat from Washington, D.C. I'm here with my son, Benjamin, who decided to come with me in the last moment because he figured I'm going to be very, very emotional, and I am. I was first with my sister in Montmorency, then in Aubonne, and then in Bruvernay. We also had a younger brother who was somewhere in the south of France, who was 2.5 years old, with whom we were reunited on our way to this country in Marseille. He no longer knew who we were. We really didn't recognize him. He was pointed out to us. We are very, very happy, my sister and I. My sister, the beautiful blonde in the first table right here, and my son, the tallest person in this audience. I am widowed. I was married to a cantor. I have 2 beautiful children, my son Benjamin, my daughter Judith. My children are still single to me, had. I can only tell you one thing. I don't know how the rest of you feel. I had a tremendous spiritual awakening in every place that we were in France. I had a terrible problem with one of my legs. I made a covenant with God at that time for my leg, which I have, and it's perfect. There we had Mrs. Karkowski as a teacher, and we had Rabbi Schneerson as a teacher. I can only tell you that these two people are the people that molded, I feel, my life. And if I have any worth whatsoever, it is because of those two people. There were others as well, but these two have always been outstanding in my mind. I had the great good to still meet with Mrs. Krakowski, quite by accident. She was then teaching at Stern College, continuing educating children, girls if you will. Rabbi Schneerson I had lost count of. I found out that he died a few years ago, that he ran a home for wayward girls in New York. If only I had known, I feel I could have been of some use to him. I am so privileged to see all of you here tonight. I have been so emotional since I found out about this, again, quite by accident. I am so happy to be here with you. I feel so loved that there are people here who remember me and whom I remember. You have to say it's been a long, long time. If we are to continue to meet, please count me among those, if God will give me life and health, that I will be here as many times as you will have the reunion. God bless you all. I'm thrilled beyond words to be with all of you. Thank you.
I'm Benjamin Hirsch. I'm the youngest of the 5 Hirsch children who were on the transport from Frankfurt, Germany to Paris on, I think, on December 5th, 1938. From Paris, I went to Montmorency, to Helvetia, from there to Château de Marjolière. And in May of 1941, was sent to Marseille to rendezvous with my brothers Asher and Jack to come on the first transport of the Mousineau. I took sick in Marseille and had to stay behind and went to Bourgonais to be with my sisters Sarah and Flora, and came back on the second transport. Some years ago, I'd like to share this with you. I ran into Rebbetzin Ruth Epstein, whose maiden name was Sanger, and she, when she found out who I was, told me that I saved her life. And wondering how I could save her life and I didn't know who she was, she told me that she was the one who took my place on the first transport when I was unable to go, and that she had to wait for the second transport, she would have been 16. And all of you know what that meant. That meant that she would have had to go to the concentration camps and most likely Auschwitz and be killed. The fact of the matter is that I did not have the appendicitis that I was diagnosed to have had. After the train left, about 2 hours later, I was perfectly fine and I was able to make it on the second transport, thank God. I came to Atlanta, Georgia with the 5 of us. I'm married. I had 4 children, 3 daughters and 1 son, 2 which are married. They all live in Eretz Yisrael at this time, and I have 4 grandchildren. And I'm happy to be here, and thanks everybody for putting this whole thing together.
I'm Jack Hirsch, baby brother's older brother. Actually, I'm the second of the youngest that left Frankfurt out of the 5 of us. We went to Paris, where I stayed in Sorbonne. My brother Asher and I were the only 2 that made the entire tour, so to speak, through France together. From Sorbonne, we went to Chateau de Morel in Bourgonais. And from there, like so many others, we went, to Marseille, over the Pyrenees, into Madrid, Lisbon, and on the Musino on the first transport. And 11 days later, arrived in New York Harbor, just in time for the wedding of one of the former governors of the state of California, who later on became a vice president of the United States and then a president of the United States, only to find out that we weren't invited to the wedding. I was so disappointed that a rash broke out on my ankle, and they wouldn't let me into the country, and I had to stay on Ellis Island for a week, which I thoroughly enjoyed, like any 10-year-old, I think, would an experience like that. From there, we went to Chicago, where my brother Ash already was, and I'm sure you'll hear from him in a minute, because he loves to talk to large audiences. And from there, we went to Atlanta, Georgia, and awaited the coming of my two sisters and my baby brother Ben. And I've been in Atlanta, Georgia ever since, except for the time that I went to Birmingham, where I met my wife. And I kept on going back to Birmingham till I finally convinced her to marry me. And we've been married now for a little bit over 36 years. We have two boys, Brian, who is here with his wife tonight, and they have given us 3 grandchildren, which we saw just before we came to L.A. We stopped over there last night. And Stuart, who is not yet married, but we still have hopes for him. And we're very grateful to be here, and I'm very grateful especially to the organizers of this auspicious occasion, because it really means a lot to see all of you people, although I really don't remember hardly any of you, except for one, I must say, Werner, who claims that he's the youngest person from Waisenhausen, and that's really not true. My baby brother Ben and I are both younger than he is, I by 13 days, and we both were at Waisenhausen at one time. And I remember Werner. Werner is really my oldest living acquaintance that is not related to me. And we have kept in touch over all these years, although he came to California, Chula Vista at first, and God knows where else. Anyway, you heard from him earlier, and I'm in Atlanta. Thank you very much.
Jack, wait 1 second, please. 1 second. You may not remember me, but I remember you very well. And I know that today is your birthday, March 25th, right?
That's true.
That's true. So happy birthday to Jack. We'll give him a hand. Getting older again.
And thank God for this wonderful birthday party. How thoughtful of you.
We'll talk together. We've known each other since we came over in 1946. Okay, my name is Marcella Newman, and it was Marion Furnish. I came over in 1946, and I was born in Frankfurt, Germany. I left for Mannheim to go to Gurs, where I went to the OSE home of Magelier, and then to many other homes. And Ruth and I and 48 other boys and girls, we came over on the Atlas Dur in 1946. And I have 1 daughter and 2 granddaughters, and I'm single now.
And she's looking. My name is Ruth, and my sister is not here this evening. She's Leah. And our name was Krell. And we arrived in New York, and we were born in Germany, went to Gurs, went to Magelier, Saint-Étienne, Chamonix, and many other homes that the OSE had. And in fact, I have a book, if you want to look at it, with a lot of pictures and the actual, how many children had parents, how many didn't. Anyway, we arrived in America in 1946 on the same boat, which they
sank after we got here because it wasn't fit to be in water, by the way. So we really were meant to come to America. And my grandfather died after we arrived, so we were given a choice of Seattle, Washington, Houston, or Minneapolis, Houston, Texas. So we picked Houston, Texas because we picked Houston, Texas. I don't know why. But anyway, there's another lady here who is Annette, and I would like her to come up, and we have a song. We just met out in the hall this evening, and all of you that know the song of Majolier, please help us sing, okay? Come on, Annette.
By the way, I live in California now. I did live in Texas for 24 years and live here in California.
And I miss her. Come on, we need help. Anyway, 1, 2, 3, go. Au château de Majolier, là-haut sur la colline, les enfants sont joyeux, le personnel en voit. Ah vraiment, quelle bonne maison d'enfants, tous les trucs évacués, au château de Majolier.
My name is John Windmuller. I was born Hans Windmüller, but that got changed when we arrived in this country. I left Germany on December 7th, 1938, just a few weeks after the Kristallnacht, on a children's transport for Holland. I spent about 6 months in Holland and then took the train south to the French seaport of Cherbourg, where I boarded the St. Louis and was reunited at that time with the other members of my family, my parents and my brother Rudy. As you know, the St. Louis was not permitted to disembark its passengers in Havana Harbor. It returned to Europe, and we, that is my family and I, were allocated to the French contingent. We spent the next 2.5 years in France. On first arrival, we were taken to the OSE homes. In my case, that meant the Villa Helvetia, where I made the acquaintance for the first time of a person who would greatly influence my life, Ernst Papanek, then I believe called the Director General of the OSE Children's Homes in France. Other OSE homes in which I spent some time included the Villa Les Tourelles and, of course, Montintin. We left France after the American visa finally arrived in early January of 1942 and first went to Casablanca in order to await the arrival of the Portuguese steamer Serpa Pinto, which has already been cited several times here this evening. On this particular trip, the Serpa Pinto arrived in New York Harbor on February 20th, 1942, and that certainly is a date I shall never forget. From that point on, I think my story is not particularly unusual. I met my wife in the homes of the OSE. We got married in 1947. So we've been married for almost 42 years. We have 2 children, one of whom, my daughter, is here this evening. My son is in Washington. And We are very lucky, I think, to have made it through some rather difficult times. Thank you very much.
I'm Ruth Muller, formerly Ruth Heilbronn. I think ours is one of 3 or 4 what I call OSE marriages. I'm originally from Germany. Our family is very lucky. We managed to get onto the St. Louis, just like John eventually did. We were also assigned, obviously, to the French contingent and ended up in the OSE homes together with, some of you may remember, a cousin of mine, Inge Heilbronn, and a distant cousin of mine, Günther Heilbronn. Neither one of them made it out of France. We were fortunate enough, my parents and I, that we arrived in the United States, also on the Serpa Pinto, in June 1942. And after that, I met Jane again, or Inge, whichever way, Goldschmidt, Keibel. We had known each other very well on the St. Louis in France. And when I arrived, several years after she had arrived in New York, I got in touch with her, and we have been friends. She and Alice, her sister, we have been friends ever since. As John mentioned, we have been married 42 years and have 2 children. I'm very happy here and feel very fortunate that we have gotten out, because approximately 3 months after I left France, the big children from the OSE home were rounded up and deported.
Well, I'm Tina Goldschmidt, now Jane Keibel. I left with my family on the St. Louis also in May 39. I met with my family May 39 also on the St. Louis, and we were in France, and we were fortunate enough to be able to leave France in December 39. So the only home I was in a few weeks in one, and the rest in Montmorency.
And we came to the United States in January 1940, and I got married in 1950, and I have 2 sons. My husband passed away in 1977, and I recently retired. Thank you.
I'm Ernest Wheel, and and in La Tourelle I was also known as Jumbo City Hosenhoch. Those who remember. I left La Tourelle in May of 1940 and ended up in San Francisco and married 43 years, have 4 daughters, 3 married. One is still looking for a husband. One is married in Israel, has 3 children, and we have 3 other grandchildren in San Francisco. Very happy to be here.
Thank you. I'm Eugen Moses, or Gene Moses today, and in La Tourelle, I was reminded just this evening that I had a nickname in La Tourelle of OSE, which relates to my limited knowledge of French, in which the word OSE seemed to have played was a big part of my French vocabulary, and since I come from Schwäbische, I must have pronounced it as OSE, or somehow or other, that's how my name became that. I was born in Haslach im Kinzigtal, obviously. We were in the St. Louis, we were in France, in La Tourelle, in Montmorency, in Soissy.
And like Ernest, by sheer circumstance, we left France on the last ship out of Saint-Nazaire, the Champlain, which was sunk on the return trip. I served in the United States Army. We were married in 1960. We have 2 children, one in Memphis and one in the Navy, and married. And I've taken the liberty of bringing 3 small mementos from home to show you. One of them, like perhaps many of you, and many of you seem to have been more successful than I in transmitting the story of the St. Louis to your children. I was looking for some kind of memento that after I'm gone would be there. And so I came up with a combination of what I call a family tree and a cross between a family tree and an ethical will, which simply gave me a piece of tape on which to write the fact that I had been on the St. Louis. I wanted to frame that in something even more significant, and I picked on 2 sayings which I like and I think are important, and which both happen to come from Hillel. At the top it says, "If I'm only for myself, what am I? If I'm not for myself, who am I? And if not now, when?" And in the bottom, again from Hillel, it says, "In a place where no one is a mensch, strive to be one." That's one memento, because we were fortunate enough to get our lift, and my mother was a collector of things as I am. I was able to put together a collage which provides a small answer, not the answer, but a small answer about what is the purpose and perspective of this meeting. The most significant piece of paper that you see there is a leaf paper for my father in 1916 in the German Army, in which he served because he was a good German citizen. Parenthetically, I'd like to mention 2 things in that realm, which may be difficult to believe, but which are factual. In about 1898, in the German Diet, as the anti-Semitism was rising, 1898, when the anti-Semitism became too rampant, the Kaiser sent word that anti-Semit is to be kept quiet. At the outbreak of the First World War, Jews in the Balkans were rounded up as enemy aliens because it was clear to the governments of the Balkans that nowhere in the world did Jews have it as good as in Germany of 1910. So that's why I have brought with me the leaf paper. On the side is a field postcard from another uncle of mine, also in the First World War. And there are small pictures there. And the other item that's here is our number to come to America, 20,988, which unbelievably my father didn't get until September 1938. The third memento I brought with me I left on the back table. I don't wish to take anything away from the support of the OSE, which is certainly primary, but I was somewhat taken aback by looking at the book called Were We Responsible by Haskell Lookstein, which is a seemingly well-researched book, and it quotes from many American public and Jewish journals as resources. However, not mentioned amongst these resources that Rabbi Lookstein looked at is Outbound. And what I brought with me as my third memento are some contribution cards to a relief organization called the Blue Card, which is a relief organization founded by the same people who founded the Outbound. I want to thank in closing Henry Schuster and Art Kern. I know this has been very hard. It's a lot of hard work, and I'm a grateful beneficiary, and yours too are.
Yeah. I'm Jimmy Marcus, used to be Jens Peter, Jean-Pierre, and that's the three names I've had so far. I was in Chabannes. I came there from Quincy-sous-Sénart, from Berlin originally. I arrived in Paris August 5th, 39. Left Chabannes, went underground in the Drôme, Romans-sur-Isère, Valence, near Grenoble. And when the Americans came, I went with them and as a mascot. Came to the States in 47. I have 3 children that I know of. I used to be 6 foot tall, can you imagine that? And I have been working for one company since 1948, thanks to the first American I ever met in 1945. Next.
My name is Frances Jones. It used to be Fanny Weinberg. I was born in Cologne, Germany, and came to France, had family there in 1938. I went to Chabannes, and I met all these guys over here, and we just had a reunion in Chabannes, and I must say, all these guys are my brothers. So once you live together in a home, you always stay close. Okay, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Gerd Rosenzweig, and now Jerry Gerard. And I'm also from Germany. And after the Kristallnacht and a brief siege in a Waisenhaus, which was talked about here, but this was a different Waisenhaus in Berlin, Auerbachsche Waisenhaus, where my friend Ziggy, to my right, also was. We were sent to France. And the USA took us, I'll try to be brief, at Quincy-sous-Sénart. And from there, when the Germans came, we eventually ended up in Chabannes. And some of the kids in Chabannes left in 41. I did not leave because my father was in southern France and begged me not to go. And by 1942, in Klaus Barbie's arrival in Lyon, I was among 6 of the kids that were arrested and sent to Auschwitz, among other places. But I did survive, obviously. 4 others did not. And I was again in a home in Paris after a brief stint with the American Army, Chateau Boucicaut, and then made myself independent and came to this country in 1947. My wife Betty, who's sitting there, and I have been married for 17 years. We have 4 children, and I'm about to be a grandfather. Nice to be here.
My name is Max Hurd. I originally come from Vienna. We went to Belgium. Later on, I went to France, where I met all these lovely people, and went to Chabannes. I was in the 2nd transport with a lot of you and the Mugino. However, Ziggy and I talked about it, and we don't remember you, unfortunately. It's a long time. It was a long time ago. 50 years ago is a long time ago. I want to be very brief. I have a wife, of course, and 1 daughter. Thank you.
I still go by my maiden name, which is Siegfried Knapp. I haven't changed it. I'm originally from East Prussia, and as Jerry has mentioned, we all met in Berlin in the orphanage, and came to Quincy-sous-Sénart, which is not one of the OSE chateaus, but later on we all met back in Chabannes. And not to negate from this evening's get-together, as you all know, the Chabanais met in August of last year in Chabannes, and I can't possibly tell you what a traumatic and wonderful experience it was. I live in Santa Monica, and the rest is history. Thank you.
I'm Al Nowak, and I have not changed my name. I was born in Berlin, Germany, and I left there in March 20th, 1939. And at the table right in front of me is one of the people that I left on the same day, and we've been friends for over 50 years. From there, we went to Montmorency at Villa Helvetia, and eventually I went to Montantin, and from there, eventually to Chabannes, and from Chabannes through Marseille, and eventually came to the United States on the second transport on the Muzina, arriving in New York on September 2nd, 1941. I am married. My wonderful wife of 38 years is sitting at table number 18, and I was asked to come to speak with table 11 because they're part of the Chabanese group that we met last year in France. I have two children. My son and daughter-in-law are sitting at table 14, and my daughter, who was unable to make it to this particular thing. We live near San Francisco in Hillsborough, and I am grateful to all the people that are here and the people that organize this particular thing. I think they did a tremendous job, and it's a great feeling of camaraderie to meet all these people who I have not seen in many, many years, even though the names seem irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It's some sort of a kinship that I think is really important to all of us, and hopefully we can do this again some year down the road. Thank you very much.
My name is Judy Weaver, formerly Juliette Sherman.
I lived in Belgium, and from there we fled to France on foot mostly. When we arrived in Paris, my father was drafted, sent to the south, to Agde-Hérode. Somebody here mentioned Agde before. And from there, I was shipped to Château de Majolier, where I remained for about 2 years. Some of the girls in my dormitory were Gita and Renee Spindel, who are both here tonight, and Annette Bernet, who sang a song tonight. And I came on the Serpa Pinto in 1942, along with my girlfriend Minnie, with whom I had contact with for many years until about 15 years ago. Somehow we got lost. And tonight we met each other again. I've been married for 32 years to a man that I met the day he got off the boat from Holland. And in 1952, I was reunited here in the United States with my mother, who survived the war, and my two brothers and my sister, who were babies at the time, and they were placed in homes through the OSE, through Madame Azur, in the homes in France. After the war, Madame Azur found the children again and reunited them with my mother, and then, of course, with me here in the United States. We've been living here for 25 years in Southern California, San Fernando Valley, and what else is there? That's about it.
My name is Paula Blue, born Goldfluss. We were deported speaking to the microphone, we were deported from Germany to Rivesal. From Rivesal we got to Château Majolier. Was in Château Majolier from 1941 to 43 and got to Switzerland. I live in Evanston, Illinois. Was married for about 35 years, and I do have a son.
My name is Hannelore Bernie, today Annette Sussman. I was born in Germany, Frankfurt am Main. I don't remember the orphanage I was in. I don't remember the orphanage in Paris. I don't remember the orphanage in Marseille, but I do remember the orphanage in the Chateau de Marjolier. I have 3 children, 2 grandchildren, 1 daughter that's with me. Also in 1964, I've been searching and I did find my mother, which was in Auschwitz. She lasted 2 years, but I did get a chance to see her. And I'm very happy to be here and see everybody.
Hi, I'm Ruth Koenig-Mitzner. I'm from New York, Long Island to be exact. Very happy to be here. My sister and I, my sister Lucy and I, we left Germany, we went to Oberhausen, and from there to Boulogne. And we came here in 41 on the Musigno on June 21st, 1941.
I think this is a wonderful reunion, and I'm thinking ahead just a little bit. I wonder if, wouldn't it be great if we organized a group to go back together to some of the homes that we were in, to see them again as a group. I'm just throwing out the idea. Thank you.
My name is Ferdy Shaw, and until Wednesday a week ago, I did not know anything about OSE. I read in the Jewish Week about the reunion and recognized Montmorency. I was born in Czechoslovakia, and my father and mother and my sister went to France in 1939, and after a brief stay in a home in Nourier, my mother got ill and I was sent to Montmorency. I think I was 4 years old. I'm not sure whether I was 3 yet, 3 or 4, and I don't know how long I was in Montmorency. After my mother recovered, I was reunited with my mother, and my father went to North Africa with the Czechoslovakian Legion, and my mother and sister and I went to southern France, Andorra, Spain, Lisbon, and we came here under Nyassa. I've lived in New York ever since. My wife is here, and I would just like to make one personal remark. I had no idea who the adults were that took care of me, but my stay in Montmorency, I remember to this day as a very calm period in a time that was troubled both before and after, and I want to thank anybody who was there as an adult. You must have been very kind to us. Thank you very much.
Hi there. My name is Marty Bear, and when we came over, we had a tandem, Al Bear and Marty Bear. Unfortunately, my brother passed away, but if he were alive, I'm sure he'd be here. But I think one thing we ought to do tonight is really thank all the people who helped us, who are not Jewish. The Friends Service Committee, there's so many of, which one was it, Ernest? Who else was there? Yeah, there's a lot of non-Jewish groups, the Quakers, the Catholic organizations, and the nuns that helped us come out of Portugal, no matter what boat we were on. I think we ought to really, in our hearts, in our minds, and in our everyday living, when we see these groups sometime, even though some of them may change back and forth, which they do, we ought to thank them for what they did for us. That wasn't all Jewish, and it was a lot of people that helped us that we ought to remember. Thank you.
My name is Asher Hirsch. I'm the 4th of the Hirsch clan here, the 2nd oldest, but the 4th to speak. I would like to thank Mr. Kern and Mr. Schuster, the main organizers of this evening, but at the same time, while thanking all the non-Jewish groups who have helped us, I would like to thank the Almighty who made it all possible. And in thanking him, I would like to express a prayer. I'm sure that all of you pray with me that Henry Schuster should have refuah shalema. My history, you know, from my sister and brothers. I moved to Israel 10 years ago. I'm associated with the Shaare Zedek Hospital in Jerusalem for the past 32 years, first in New York, not here in New York, as the Executive Director of the American Committee, and now as Director of Religious Services in Jerusalem. My wife is here with me from Jerusalem, sitting on table 18. We will be married 40 years in August. We have 3 children, 8 grandchildren, and we look forward whenever you will be in Jerusalem. Incidentally, on the listing, my address is correct, but my telephone number is my telephone number in New York and not in Israel. So if you want to make a change, it is 02-538-479. 02-538-479. When you'll be in Jerusalem, by all means, give us a ring. We'll be more than happy to see you.
Do we have any more OSE people that I haven't called on? No? Okay, I'd like to do one more thing now. I know that we've all been enjoying this so far. I think it's also appropriate that we set aside a few moments tonight and just remember those who were not as fortunate as we were, fellow OSE people who did not survive the war, or other friends and relatives, or the many who just did not make it through the Nazi persecution. So I thought that it would be only appropriate if we all stood up for 1 minute of silence and thought about them. All right, thank you very much. I'd just like to call on 2 more speakers tonight, and then we'll have one more formality, and that should be the end of the formal activities. We do have to start leaving at 12:30, so I'd like to call on a young lady who's a second-generation OSE person, and that's Sharon Maloney, who wants to talk to us, give us her views from the point of view of the second generation, I guess. Of Morris and Renee Eisenberg.
Now that you're all, I'm sure, very tired of listening, having known a group of these OSE children all my life, in my mind they are all heroes. And growing up with all these heroes, especially my mother, has in some ways been a challenge. No matter how much my mother has ever reassured me that my personal dreams, choices, and visions are my own to make, it's hard not to feel a measure of expectation and comparison to her and the world that she so magnanimously emerged from. The difficulties and hardships of my life seem to often pale compared to the Holocaust experience, which tested the limits of human endurance, faith, and integrity. The feelings of needing to do something extraordinary with my life, to imbue meaning to my mother's survival are sometimes hard to avoid, as is the sometimes nagging self-talk that sometimes says things like, "You're not doing a good enough job." And to make this all the more challenging, not only did these survivors endure, not only did they not all make a good and dignified lives for themselves and their families, but they have shown little self-pity nor bitterness. This to me is heroic, and this to me is a challenge to my conduct in interfacing with the world. And there is, however, a very positive and important byproduct of all this. And that is a belief that if I have the desire and determination, that I can do anything with my life. My mother's life inspires a belief that obstacles and hardships don't necessarily limit the possibilities of one's life, and that we are capable of healing ourselves from the worst offenses to our human existence. One source that has taught me about and connected me to my family's past have been the stories. I grew up hearing bits and pieces of my mother's story, and I still hear little bits and pieces, and have carefully held on to these morsels, which have over time focused into an image which represents my heritage. The events of the Holocaust, which greatly shaped my mother, have in turn been a strong force in shaping my beliefs, values, and character. The events of her life during the war years were so profound that although certain scars will never heal, a certain insight or sense of what is important in our lives will never elude her. From a young age, I knew the horrors that people could inflict on others, and that one's life could be mutilated out of irrational hatred, a difficult concept to make sense of as a child, and one that felt monstrous and frightening. To realize that in some ways our lives are so tentative because hatred can randomly be executed on any of us and destroy the most precious of our efforts. And to feel that there may be times in our lives where that force of wickedness will leave us powerless. Because of my family's experience during the war, I have a confirmed knowledge of all this. There was no denying that there was scary stuff out there. Yet my mother has not lived out of contemptuous fear or suspicious condemnation. No, quite the contrary. She has always been extremely kind, generous, and loving. She has always been warm and hospitable to strangers. So has the rest of her family, as have all the survivors that I know, like Artie Kern and Aaron Lowe, all of them who had first-hand knowledge of how brutal and inhumane people can be. Yet all of them are people who truly live from the heart. How? Well, I think besides from their own inner strength, I think this reflects a great paradox in their lives, which is that in addition to their experience of the extremities of human depravity, they also experience the extremity of human generosity and sacrifice in those that protected them and, as Papanesk says, led them out of the fire. And this experience is what shines and what I think shapes these survivors' belief and spiritual vision of the value of others and how we relate this sense of value to others. That the most important meaning that we can derive from our lives is through the kindness and love that we put out and receive from one another. For despite the fact that a faction of the world was trying to eradicate Jewish existence, despite the fact that this faction gave my mother the message that she had absolutely no value as a human being and was unworthy of life, there were others who insisted that her life was of such great value that they were ready to risk their lives for her. And it is this brilliant display of heroic humanity that has inspired instead of embittered many of these people's lives and in turn my generation's lives as well. The Rivoirs are an example of this. The Rivoirs, who are a French farm family in southern France, who because of their humanity had the courage to take my mother in and protect her from the Nazis. We have through the years maintained a relationship with this family, and our bond with them is quite powerful and is the kind that normally only families experience with one another. Monsieur Rivoire cries every time he sees my mother. He is so overwhelmed with the emotion that his participation in her life, despite the danger to himself and his family, was unquestionably worth the risk. Reaffirmed, I sense, every time he sees her or any of us children. This may have been the greatest and bravest thing he ever did in his life, indeed one of the most meaningful, and he exhibits great pride in having had the strength and courage to make my mother's life possible. For myself to see in flesh, to know, to have a relationship with this family has given me great faith in people and humanity instead of cynicism. Both people like the Rivoirs and my mother have helped me keep focused on the notion that whatever I do in my life, whatever aspirations or desires that I may have, whatever joys or hardships that I may experience, that my greatest strength and spirit will be derived from the relationships and love that I have with others. I am always brought back to this simple and basic value, especially with my family, my husband, and my friends. It seems obvious that our family holds this value in common. It is of no surprise to me that everyone in my immediate family are in the helping professions, or that my brother, sister, and I are drawn to experiences and jobs that will somehow directly benefit someone else's life. It is of no great surprise to me that our family puts so much effort and value in our relationships with one another and are always wanting to better and tighten our bond. Or the fact that I have several active friendships that have spanned 26 years and are still nourishing and wonderful. Or that I have a marriage that is centered around a never-ending and constantly growing love and friendship. Or that I place so much value on myself as a person and as a Jew. I feel thankful that our parents and those who aided them had the vision and the strength to maintain their spirit, their kindness, their integrity, and their optimism, so that we of the next generation can be filled with inspiration, meaning, and joy. You are truly remarkable people.
Thank you, Sherry. And now I'd like to call on Ernst Walter to say a few words to us.
Le plus grand directeur des cirques du monde, celle célèbre sur mes panneaux. Oui, nous sommes un cirque bien connu, un cirque comme jamais on a vu. That was 1939. I don't know why we put on that cirque. I think we needed to make some money for the homes, and I see some bears around there and some dancers, and naturally lots of us who were in the orchestra. At the time, many of us, and I know certainly the older girls, all thought le plus grand directeur was a man named Boris Godunov, who was Godunov something. Gunotman, we got it, on whom all the girls had a crush and who was and we were all very angry at that because we thought they should have a crush on us, who was the ringmaster of the circus. Later on, or about the same time, we found out that le plus grand directeur was really Ernst Papanek. That John Windmüller mentioned, that we all know so much about. And the remarkable thing, I think, is, and we do need to think just a moment, is that I believe that without Ernst Papanek, very few of us would be alive. And those of us who would be alive would be probably mentally in much worse shape than we are. We're probably all slightly neurotic, but we would be very severely neurotic. France, as many of you may know, at least those who were old enough, was quite a reactionary country. The pedagogical level was atrocious, and I think it was Ernst Papanek who was able to see the kind of structure and support that was needed and was able to infuse it, even in those homes where he was not as visible, and even to the little ones who may hardly or not at all remember him. He was, for example, the one who, when some of us needed to express a little bit of adolescence, instead of having us all separated and dispersed all over France, was able to convince the very oppressive hierarchy that wanted to do that, that the best punishment for us would be to take away our student government, which indeed was an important but also much more maturing punishment. I think there's one more party that I want to recognize tonight for helping us to maintain our sanity. And that party is every one of you. And I'm sincere. I've often thought about it, and I don't think we operated under denial. We laughed and we played, and we often did as if there was no danger. But I'm convinced that every one of us, except for the most littlest ones, was acutely aware at all times of the danger that was lurking around us. We may have done some displacement, but no denial. And we kept up the spirit, and we kept each other up, and we encouraged each other, and we didn't let us despair. And that, I think, is what saved us. And for that, I think all of us and all of you need a big hand.
Thank all of you for coming here tonight. Making it so nice and worthwhile. And I'm sure it made all the work of Henry Schuster and Art Kern and all the others worthwhile. We have till 12:30. Can we get a picture? They did take pictures. That was one of the ideas.